So I'm here with Maura Hart, who is a longtime critical skills teacher, Antioch facilitator, really just extraordinary person to work with. I've known Maura for, gosh, I think 20 years, something like that. And she is going to explain to us a little bit about a tool that she created called correct me, is it give to get or gives to get or give to gets?
I'd say gives to get.
Okay. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about where this came from. How did you come up with this idea?
Sure, happy to. So really, it's a method of contracting with your students, whether they're adults or children in a classroom. And I actually don't call it gives to get. I call it my contracting tool, but it was the idea of gives to get is central to it. So it became known as gives to get. And it came about, I've been an instructor for critical skills classrooms for more than 20 years. And we often began or in our initial community building used a carousel. And I found that I could combine the carousel with gives to get to help people, my students, shape their understanding of what was to come. And I did it because the critical skills classroom is such a different format for teaching and learning compared to our traditional, which is still quite prevalent, that it gives the heads up to the students that this is a different way of learning. And so the carousel questions combined with asking students, here's a lot of stuff we're going to do. What are you willing to give? Elevate student voice and choice, and combines that rights and responsibility piece that's so prevalent in a critical skills classroom. So it sets the tone. And that's why I started it. As I was teaching the critical skills institutes, I felt like there was a need. And so that's how it kind of organically came together, where I combined it with our carousel in order to contract with my folks to outline how are we going to interact and learn together here, knowing that this is going to be a different format.
Okay. So has it evolved over time? Did it look differently the first time you did it, or look different the first time you did it than it does now? Or has it sort of always been like, this works, so I'm going to stick with it?
Yeah, it as far as I remember, it has not changed, not a single bit.
And how do you modify? Like you said that you've done this with students and adults. Are there ways that you change it for younger students or for different populations of adults, depending on how long you're together? Or, can you talk a little bit about how people, like if I'm a 5th grade teacher, is this something I can do with my kids? And do I need to change it to make it work for them?
You can absolutely use this tool with any age group. And actually, I'd say 5th grade is prime because they're just coming into a recognition of their own power at 5th grade.
Okay.
And if you don't harness that in an appropriate way, yeah. So I don't really need to modify the delivery of this tool from 4th grade through adults. Unless I've got students or adults who have disabilities, and then we would modify in any way that we typically would to make sure that it's accessible. For younger children, I would modify in that really young ones, you can have someone else write, you can have them draw pictures, you can have discussions and then ask them what symbol would show that that's what our behavior is. You can narrow down to single words that might be sight words or words that we're going to use with our SEL curriculum. And no classroom is the same anywhere. So it doesn't make sense to come into any classroom with this is exactly what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it, and not veer from that. And you have to, use your educator and facilitator expertise with every group that you utilize this with.
Yeah, which I think is just an important reminder always that with any tool, with any strategy, with anything that you read or see somebody else do, You always have to filter it through your own experience and your own knowledge of your kids and what works for you and what works for them. You know, your mileage may vary. And I always like to tell people that there's no implementation police where this stuff is concerned. Nobody's going to come and make sure that you're doing it exactly the way we designed it, right? That you have to modify to make it work for you. And it's okay to do that. You're allowed. Just to make sure that you're paying attention to what works and what doesn't, and then make adjustments as necessary. You know, like they've always said, I don't even know where I heard this initially, but taste the soup before you change the recipe, but feel free to change the recipe. That it's sort of like that.
Yeah, that's really good.
Okay. So thank you. We're going to take a little break, and then we're going to come back and you can tell us how this thing works, how we can do it.
All right.